I was sent this Twitter thread. Reading through this Twitter thread, it is apparent. So before I get started, I am a mom and my kids are awake. So if you hear stuff in the background, that's my kids. So just keep that in mind. Now, about this conversation. Yesterday, I started a conversation that started on Twitter. And I had some really good comments on both my TikTok page and my YouTube page. But this conversation was sent to me from Reddit. Now, it was kind of funny, this woman from Reddit saying to keep her private, but people from Reddit have the craziest names. It'll be like Llama Llama, Llama Llama Can. It'll be the most random names and nothing that people will really associate. But that was just a little funny. Anyways, I'm going to start with this story time, and I might do another whole video with just some of the comments. So this story time is called My Aunt and the Church. She says, so I just saw your video on the church and had one to share with you about my aunt. She's deceased. Please keep me anonymous. This story is long. Years ago, back in the early aughts, maybe early 90s, I don't know. My aunt married a man-child named Kevin. He always had a pager, a Bluetooth, bad breath, short legs, and worked for budget. Anyway, my aunt at some point became religious. I think she wanted an extended family since she couldn't have kids. So she joined this church near her house. Kevin never wanted anything to do with the church for the first few months, but eventually he joined and they both got baptized. They both have been members of the church for a few years. My aunt started to mentor this really young girl at the church, and she would come over to her house often. Now, my aunt was like a second mom to me, and she loved kids. So I imagine she felt and treated this girl the same way she did me. Can y'all already see where this is going? I could see where this was going just by that first paragraph. All right. She says, now I'm going to swerve on this story a little bit because I did not learn the facts until many years later, close to her death. One day, my aunt just seemed to drop off the planet. I couldn't call her. I stopped seeing her. No one in my family could or would tell me where she was. She was literally my favorite person in the world. So this broke me. It was 6 years before I saw or heard from my aunt again. Why did she disappear? Well, one day she was on her way to work. She grabbed her cell phone like usual, headed out the door. Now, at this time, cell phones were just able to send and receive pictures, so they weren't as smart yet. And there weren't that many great options. So she and Bad Breath Kevin had the exact same phone. She gets to the bus stop, turns the phone on, and starts to realize this isn't her phone, but Kevin's. She looks through the messages only to find out that her husband has basically groomed and had an affair with the girl from church that she has been mentoring. She is 17, same age as me at the time. Kevin is already at least 40. She digs even further and finds out this young lady is pregnant with Kevin's baby, and Kevin has told her that he is going to leave my aunt. She is devastated. Kevin tried to lie, even though the text pictures prove otherwise, so he eventually admits it and starts crying while begging and pleading with my aunt to forgive him. Tries to convince her that this is a good thing since she can't have kids and they can raise this baby. She's not having it. And the next day she goes to her church to get some support because, again, she considers this congregation, especially the pastor, as family. This is where it gets a bit more twisted as she's telling her pastor, a woman no less, what has happened and that she'd like her to remove Kevin from the church for adultery and taking advantage of this young girl. Her pastor simply told her they will not be doing that, and that the young lady and stupid Kevin already announced their plans to baptize their baby at the church once it's born. Kevin had been openly seeing this girl when she was not being mentored by my aunt, and the church members knew. When my aunt was sick, he picked this young lady up and take her to church, even hold her hand in the pew. My aunt couldn't drive, so he would drive her home after my aunt mentored her, did Bible study, etc. Stupid Kevin would lie and say he had to work out of state or late. She had been a dutiful wife, someone who helped to grow the church from its small size and showed up to the church with stupid Kevin for years and was the one that brought him into the church, and no one said a thing to her or even hinted that this was happening. She was lost when her church turned their back on her. So within a week, she dipped out on Kevin while he was away at work. She changed her number, didn't tell my grandmother or my dad. She went full no contact for at least a year. When my grandmother did hear from her, she was living in another state. Learned to drive, had a new job and a partner who loved her, but she still wasn't ready to let everyone else know where she was or what happened. So, because of stupid Kevin and the church, I lost 6 years with my favorite person in the world. I only had 1 year with her once I got her back. This is her story as told to me because by that time, I was more than old enough to understand. She never went back to church and became a Buddhist. Support support people that support you. Support organizations that support you. Don't give and give and give and give and give to these organizations that are just going to turn their back on people. If you see them turning their back on other parishioners, other members, they'll do it to you. So I'm going to leave this I'm just going to end this story time. It speaks for itself. There's no lessons to be learned outside of watch watch the way the church is running. If they shun women, if they don't take women's, lives and mental health into consideration and shelter the men that are doing wrong things, leave that church. They're going to do the same to you. So that's it for this one. And I'm going to do a separate video with some of the comments from the previous video. It is apparent that the declining church rates will continue to decline. We live in a world where we're now seeing a shift. We're seeing men be held accountable. We're seeing the churches being held accountable. We're seeing people talk about all of the dysfunction and hypocrisy that they have seen. And the church has been being put on blast, and deservedly so. So these are some of the comments. This woman said, I left my church because they excommunicated a woman who left her husband. He SA'd their children. They were more concerned with her shacking up than with him being a predator. And I'm like, this is sad. How long ago was this? It was 2020. She found a really nice guy. She was trying to get a divorce. They wanted her to go back to her husband, and they'd counsel the family. I left that day. If you are watching people coddle people that will SA children, they want you to put your kids back into that situation. That is not an organization that you need to be a part of. This person says, this is why I rather not get involved with the church. I live in a Mormon town and they influence everything. The separation of church and state is long gone. They get tax breaks and help each other out as long as you're in their cult. And then Nikita says, me as a child, I overheard adult conversations about our Pentecostal pastor having affairs with women in the congregation. I'm now an atheist. When I said hypocrisy is one of the reasons why people are leaving these places. So I asked this person, have you seen other women in your cohort and area do the same? She says, I live in the Southern Bible Belt, so I'm the minority. I never stayed in touch with Pentecostal family members after the age of 14. And then Lily says, my church changed all the elders, staff, pastors, and now the women and people are staying and growing again. If they wanted to, they would. Absolutely. If you're going to go to church, go to a place that is welcoming and safe for other women. This person says it's like they hide behind the church to enable so much bad behavior. I've been out of there for years. And then Paige says, trying to make a Christian nationalist country and no one wants to be a Christian anymore. Peak comedy. And then Tina says this, and I agree wholeheartedly. Also, a lot of us see the correlation of church and enslavement and patriarchy. That it all goes together. And as the church is loosening up, as people are walking away, patriarchy is declining as well. The grips of patriarchy are loosening. Sydney says, I told our church Bible group I was thinking of unaliving myself because of the abuse. I was ignored. He still attends that church. Toya says, my dad was sleeping with any and everybody, even women at the church, never discreet. They never told him to stop, just told my mom to pray for him. Sean says, the last time I stepped in a church, The deacons were sexually harassing attractive women, and the pastor did nothing about it. You know, some people get on my in my comments and they're like, "You guys, what church are you guys going to?" And oh my God, this is and make it like it's somebody else's fault. They try to discredit the message. But how can you discredit all of these people? I have so many of these comments. It's not just one person in one area. Y'all see, I've so far talked about Pentecostal, Mormon, the Bible Belt. I've talked about many different things, and there's more. Island Girl says, as someone who grew up in the church that enabled the behavior of a serial cheating pastor, I still have religious beliefs but don't attend services regularly. Organized religion is hypocritical, holding women to a higher moral standard while there's no accountability for men. And somebody's like, not all, not all, don't lift them up. Okay, so Brandy says, there was a Baptist church in Dallas, Texas, about 8 years ago that put a woman under church discipline because she left her husband when she found out that he was a Frito. He was a Frito. They sent out a letter about her sin of divorce, but didn't mention to the congregation that he was a Frito at all. That woman fled the community and hired a lawyer. The only reason the church backed down is because it hit the national news, and the fact that they were covering for a Frito got out. Absolute lunatics. They will cover up and ignore any horrible thing. And somebody was like, "Oh, what church is it?" We're gonna have to look for this. The Village Church in Dallas. Trust me, I will be getting on the Google. West says, the church I used to attend allowed the minister who SA'd a 16-year-old girl to come back into his position after he did his bid in prison. The way they treated and treat women is deplorable. I haven't been to church in at least 20 years. And Azula Keys says, ex-Catholic here, don't let me get started on what that church has done to millions of children globally. I'm ashamed to have been one in the past, but I am now free from it. I haven't stepped foot in a church in 13 years. And then someone says the Catholic Church has warts, but should we throw it all away? There are still God-fearing priests. Now women can't. Yeah, she's like, there's still good ones. Yay, there's still good ones. Not all. Not all. Jessica says, this happened sometime in the late 80s. My dad was an alcoholic psycho stalker. The Catholic Church in a small town kicked her and her 3 small children, one with severe Down and one with severe asthma, out during a mass for being divorced. And my mom's uncle was one of the priests. So traumatized from being raised in the church, it took decades to deconstruct and is still a work in progress. Catholic guilt is a real thing. And the last one, I'll never forget, in 2016, I joined a Baptist church and had been going to church Sunday service for a few weeks and giving what I could in tithes. It was one Sunday where the pastor and first lady got up on that podium and had the nerve to say they were no longer accepting tithes under $100. Me and my $25 left in the middle of the service and haven't been back since. Not only do they gaslight you, they're money hungry too. I was like, what? She was like, I was appalled to say the least. That it is a pimpocracy. That's all it is. It's just a pimpocracy with the Bible. That's all it is a money grab. And like I keep saying, women are the backbone. If women start seeing how they treat other women and girls and walk away, the church is going to crumble. The church deserves to crumble. That's it, and that's all. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.